Hey there, fellow history buffs. You know, sometimes it feels like we spend our lives swimming in a sea of information, but every now and then, you stumble upon these little eddies, these fascinating facts that just make you go, whoa, I never knew that. We're talking about the most interesting and lesser-known facts about US presidents. Behind those powdered wigs and presidential portraits lie some seriously surprising stories. Stick around, because you won't want to miss these surprising tidbits. Alright, let's kick things off with the big guy himself, George Washington. Now, we've all heard the stories about his wooden teeth, right? It's practically American folklore at this point. But guess what? It's totally false. I know. It's a tough pill to swallow. The truth is, Washington's teeth weren't made of wood at all. They were actually a bit more macabre. We're talking a combination of human teeth, animal teeth, like hippopotamus and donkey, and ivory. Yeah, not exactly the pearly whites we picture today. It makes you wonder, did they ever have to replace a hippo tooth? It's a bit gruesome, sure, but it's also a fascinating glimpse into the realities of dentistry back in the day. And hey, it makes Washington a little more human, right? Next up, we've got Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, a man of great intellect and reason. But did you know he also had a bit of an obsession? And no, I'm not talking about mac and cheese. Jefferson was absolutely fascinated by fossils, like seriously obsessed. He collected them, studied them, even had arguments with other scientists about them. In fact, his passion was so strong that he actually had a mastodon skeleton reconstructed in the White House. Can you imagine the Oval Office with giant prehistoric bones just casually laying around? Jefferson's fossil fascination just goes to show that even the most brilliant minds can have their quirks. And hey, who knows, maybe those ancient bones inspired some of his groundbreaking ideas. Okay, this one's for all you history buffs who thought you knew everything about Abraham Lincoln. Sure, he's remembered for leading the nation through the Civil War, freeing slaves, and delivering the Gettysburg Address. But before all that, young Abe was honing a very different set of skills. Get this, Abraham Lincoln was a wrestler. And not just any wrestler, he was actually really good at it. We're talking about a guy who reportedly had a record of nearly 300 wins and only one loss. That's right, one loss. Honest Abe, tossing opponents around like rag dolls in between studying law books. This towering figure, known for his quiet strength and determination, was also a force to be reckoned with on the wrestling mat. Wrestling, much like politics, requires strategy, resilience, and the ability to outmaneuver your opponent. So next time you see a picture of Lincoln, remember, you're looking at a man who could not only grapple with the nation's problems, but also grapple with its toughest wrestlers. Now, when you think of Teddy Roosevelt, you probably picture a rugged outdoorsman, a fearless leader, a man who charged up San Juan Hill, and you wouldn't be wrong. But there's another side to TR that's often overlooked. You see, Teddy Roosevelt had a secret. Well, not so much a secret as a physical challenge he faced with characteristic grit. Teddy Roosevelt was blind in one eye. It happened during his presidency, actually, a boxing injury in the White House of all places. Apparently, TR was a big fan of sparring, and during one particularly intense match, he took a punch to the eye that caused permanent damage. He kept it pretty quiet, even downplaying the severity of the injury. It just goes to show you, Teddy Roosevelt was tough as nails, even when facing adversity head-on. Or should I say one eye on. Herbert Hoover. Often remembered for the Great Depression, right? But there's so much more to his story. Before he was president, before the stock market crash, Herbert Hoover was known for something else entirely. He was a humanitarian, a hero to millions. I'm talking about his incredible work during World War I. When Europe was ravaged by war, Hoover stepped up in a big way. He organized massive relief efforts, using his skills as an engineer to tackle the logistical nightmare of feeding millions of starving people. Hoover was instrumental in getting food, clothing, and medical supplies to those who desperately needed them. It's a side of him we don't often hear about, but it's a testament to his character and compassion. Now, who doesn't love a good presidential pet story? And when it comes to presidential pets, few were as beloved as Fala, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Scottish Terrier. This wasn't just any dog, folks. Fala was a bona fide celebrity. He traveled everywhere with FDR, even attending important meetings and greeting foreign dignitaries. Can you imagine Winston Churchill sharing a biscuit with Fala under the table during wartime negotiations? It's both adorable and historically fascinating. But here's the kicker. Fala was so popular that he received thousands of fan letters. He even had his own secretary to handle all the mail. Fala's story is a reminder that sometimes the smallest companions can leave the biggest paw prints on history. John F. Kennedy, the Pulitzer Prize president. John F. Kennedy, the youngest elected president, known for his charisma, his eloquence, and his tragic assassination. But here's a fact that often gets lost in the shuffle of Camelot. JFK was also a Pulitzer Prize winner. That's right, before he was President Kennedy, he was author Kennedy. And a darn good one at that. His book, Profiles in Courage, won the Pulitzer Prize for Biography in 1957. The book tells the stories of 8 U.S. senators who risked their careers and reputations to stand up for what they believed in. It's a testament to Kennedy's own belief in courage, integrity, and the power of conviction. It's fascinating to think about a president who was also a gifted writer, who could craft not only speeches that moved a nation, but also narratives that captured the human spirit. It adds another layer to his legacy, don't you think? A reminder that behind the political savvy and the Kennedy mystique was a man who deeply valued the power of words and the importance of standing up for what's right. Richard Nixon, the musical president. Richard Nixon. The name probably conjures up images of Watergate, scandal, and that infamous wave as he boarded the helicopter. But what if I told you that this complex figure was also a bit of a musician? Yes, you heard that right. Richard Nixon had a secret talent: music. The man could play 5 instruments: the piano, the saxophone, the clarinet, the accordion, and the violin. Can you imagine Nixon jamming out on the accordion? Or serenading world leaders with his saxophone skills? It's a side of him we rarely see. Nixon's musical talents add another dimension to his story, reminding us that even the most controversial figures can possess hidden depths and unexpected passions. Jimmy Carter, the president and the UFO. Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer turned president, known for his honesty, his humanitarian work, and his UFO sighting. Yep, you read that right. Years before becoming president, Jimmy Carter claimed to have seen a UFO. It happened in 1969 while he was still governor of Georgia. Carter, along with a group of witnesses, reported seeing a strange, glowing object in the sky. He even filed an official report with the International UFO Bureau. Now, whether you believe in extraterrestrial visitors or not, Carter's experience is intriguing, to say the least. Carter's UFO encounter is a reminder that even in the realm of politics, where pragmatism often reigns supreme, there's still room for mystery, for the unknown, for the possibility that some things defy explanation. Barack Obama, the comic book collector-in-chief. Barack Obama, the first African-American president known for his eloquence, his composure, and his love of comic books. That's right, folks, behind that cool and collected exterior was a self-proclaimed comic book geek. Even as a kid, Obama was a fan of the illustrated adventures of superheroes and fantasy worlds. He's said to have collected Spider-Man and Conan the Barbarian comics, escaping into their pages just like any other kid. It's kind of awesome, isn't it? To think of a president, the leader of the free world, geeking out over comic books. And who knows, maybe those early encounters with comic book heroes instilled in him a sense of justice, a belief in fighting for what's right, that stayed with him throughout his life and into his presidency. It's a reminder that even the most powerful people in the world started out as kids with imaginations that soared beyond the confines of reality. That's a wrap on presidential surprises. And there you have it, folks. 10 fascinating facts about US presidents that you probably didn't know. From wooden teeth myths to presidential pets, from wrestling rings to UFO sightings, we've explored some of the lesser-known and often surprising aspects of these historical figures. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more intriguing content. Because here on this channel, we believe that history doesn't have to be boring. It's full of surprises, quirky anecdotes, and fascinating details that make the past come alive.